we did it! The Nitpicking Nerds officially part of the 100,000 subscriber club! And to celebrate, we're going to take you on a tour through all 27 of our decks.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, BZ, joined by Amber, again, for the celebration. Love you, Amber. That makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. We still making videos every day. That's how we got to 100K, baby, and we're going to do it all the way up to 1,000,000K.
1,000,000,
If you want to support us on our journey to 1,000,000K, you just got to go to patreon.com. It's that simple. As soon as you go there, you're going to see all the great perks we got lined up for you. You can choose what you want because it's going to support the channel either way.
Yeah, come support the Nitpicking Nerds, and when you do, you get awesome perks. If you would like to support us indirectly, go purchase the magic cards you were going to buy anyway on tcgplayer.com. Start with our affiliate link, then buy the cards the same way. Boom, bam, blam. Thank you, ma'am. You're supporting the nerds.
And Moxfield also supports the nerds, so you're going to hear about them later. You're not going to be able to guess where you're going to hear from them. Feel free, but also happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is today. Wow.
Surprise Maraschiello right now. Maraschiello is actually the best deck building website ever made, and every single one of our decks we're about to go over is posted on Maraschiello.com.
Check them out.
So you can go figure out. There's no way anyone got this one, by the way.
Zero people got this one.
No way.
I didn't know.
BZ literally
Amber didn't know.
So if you want to check out all of our 27 decks that we play in paper, all of them are on Maraschiello. Click on our account, which is easy to find. We're literally the top most followed account.
Maybe you heard of us.
Yeah, you go to Finder, Brewers, boom. First top people for decks. Most followed account. That's the Nitpicking Nerds. Seriously, you all you have to do, go to our decks, and it says Joe's current list, BZ's current list, and that's how you know these are decks we're playing right now.
Oh, yeah. So we want to just jump right into it?
Yeah.
We got 27 between the two of us. I have a few more than Cherries, so we're going to alternate as best as we can. My first deck is Brutaclad, the Token Master. Brutaclad takes all of your tokens and turns them into one of your token. So you're going to have a million versions of one token, and they're all going to have haste. You're going to crash in for a bajillion. This is an artifact deck. We got 36 artifacts, so I'm trying to copy them. We got things like Rite of Replication, Elminster's Simulacrum, Tomb of Horrors Adventure, which is weird because it can copy permanents, and then Echo Storm, which only copies artifacts. This deck is going to just make a little treasure on the side, a little clues, maybe some spirit tokens, a bunch of random chaff, and then all of a sudden we're going to play like a worm coil engine and just go and attack with everything. We also have cool stuff like Portal to Phyrexia I like a lot. You don't get the ETB trigger when you turn everything into it, but you get like 9 reanimation triggers. Staff of Nin is not even good, but I like it. And when you make 30 of them, how bad could it be?
And what this deck really does is out of nowhere, the board just has like a bunch of useless, stupid tokens everywhere, and then they usually become constructs.
That's a big one.
And when they become constructs, there's 17, 18 of them. So there's 18 18s, and they swing and they kill everybody.
Yeah, you just go, well, you're at 30. Any 2 of them kill you. You have 5 blockers, I'll attack you with 12 20/20s.
And that's overkill.
Yeah, Urza, Karn, Urza's Saga. There's a couple more that make constructs.
Yeah, constructs are really cool. And speaking of constructs, my next deck is actually Dad Bod Urza and his constructs.
Wow.
Wow, there's construct kids because he obviously has to be a dad with that Dad Bod. This whole deck is all about the constructs. He's going to come out and he's going to make a ton of constructs that are big beaters for the deck. This deck is even higher count than BZ's last deck. 48 total artifacts in the deck. The finishers are the constructs, period. You're going to get the counts up to 15, 16, 17 easily, and then those things are going to be killing.
Oh, an artifact deck with the commander as the finisher, huh?
Yeah, really original. I know. And I tried to fit everything that can onto artifact creatures when it can fit there. So, like, for ramp, I'm putting the mirror in. The mirrors that have for one color. Those aren't that good, but in this deck, they're great because they always ramp you into Urza.
He's got affinity for artifact creatures.
He has affinity for artifact creatures. For removal, I put in Nokron Deathmark because it's an artifact creature that removes things.
No brainer.
And for card draw, Research Thief. These are all artifact creatures that are doing the basics. So I'm filling in those slots to make this deck a little better. This deck is obviously super high synergy because I'm really in on the artifact plan. But when you're in on an artifact plan this hard, you have extreme weaknesses to board wipes of artifacts. Farewell is going to absolutely demolish you because there are 6 lands in this deck that are artifact lands. It's going to wipe you off the face of the earth.
Yeah, the indestructible ones don't even stay.
Yeah, not through Farewell. I mean, Vandal Blast will send you back to the Stone Age. Farewell, sometimes it feels like you didn't play the game.
What was before the Stone Age?
Dawn of Time.
I don't know.
The Dawn of Time. They send you back to the Dawn of Time.
Next is my oldest deck. This is my baby. This is Carador, Ghost Chieftain, but it's like my competitive CEDH deck. This is a combo deck with Protean Hulk Finisher. Carador lets you cast creatures from the graveyard, but this deck is so good that we're probably not going to cast him that often. He's just there because I love him. This deck is like fully or mostly blinged out. You know, I got like 76% of it is completely blinged out in the most expensive way possible. It's my oldest deck. We're trying to disrupt people early with like Collector Oof, Drannith Magistrate, Opposition Agent. You can't do the favorite things you want to do. We're going to ramp with like Mana Crypt, Masterpiece version, Soul Ring, the Masterpiece version, Mox Diamond, from the Vault version, and then the foil Gaia's Cradle Judge promo, obviously. You got to ramp with that one.
Yeah, and this deck is just going to win, like you said, with Protean Hulk. And the main combo it goes to is you sacrifice the Hulk, you get Activated Sleeper, making a new Hulk, Viscera Seer, which is a new sack outlet for the new Hulk, and a Grand Abolisher, which means no one's interacting with you. You assemble the rest of the combo from there. GG, game over. This is CEDH, baby.
Yeah, if Hulk dies, they just can't even interact. It's over. Like, I guess you waited too long, you're done.
This deck is a solid minimum 2 power levels above any deck I play.
Yeah, I don't even play this deck that often. I just love having it when we go to high power games or we play with some of our CDH friends. Love this deck. Still trying to brew it out. That's like my life mission, aside from make YouTube videos every day, bling this deck out.
You're going to notice my CDH deck isn't on here because I'm still working on fixing it. It's not perfect yet, and I really got to put it on Maraschiello because I have not done that yet.
Ooh.
My next deck is Giada Angel Tribal. It's pretty simple. I'm going to make a ton of flying powers and angels, and Giada's going to ramp me into it because she took angels from like fringe to like almost not fringe.
Almost not fringe. Giada guarantees, having played against this deck a bunch of times, Giada guarantees that you're just going to be ahead first. You're going to be like, oh, I got 11 power and flyers on turn 4. You better deal with me.
This deck has 32 angels / ways to make angel tokens. That's quite a bit.
I'm proud of you for that. There's not 32 good angels.
There are not 32 good angels. I even get to play the 1/1 flying vigilance.
Segovian
Angel. Some of the good angels of the deck. We have Archangel Athune, Avacyn Angel Hope when it actually resolves is a great magic card. Entreat the Angels, which has been great every single time. It's as long as you don't draw that card like the first 3 or 4 turns, card's awesome.
Yeah, as long as you make as soon as you make 3. They're all entering with a bunch of counters, and it's just a party.
It gets really silly really quick. And to pay off the angels, there's a few pretty good ones. Star 9 Aspirin is making them all cost 2 less. Lyra Dawnbringer is the real payoff. If you're the only one this is the only other like angel commander that I would say is really good because Lyra is ridiculous when she's on the battlefield in this deck. And Righteous Valkyrie just gains you life, and then she's gonna pump all your angels by 2 because you're gonna get so much life from her.
Yeah, it's almost implied that you get the +2/+2 because you're gaining just a bajillion life. I like Amiri the Sky Ruin, 23 planes in this deck, so you're always going to be able to reanimate something on your upkeep. And we got to have Nykthos.
Yeah, this deck is you'll notice that if you look at most of our decks, they're Field of the Dead decks. If they're not budget, they're usually Field of the Dead list. But for this deck, I have to make the sacrifice of taking out Field of the Dead so that Amiri the Sky Ruin can shine. And when you're playing cards like Weathered Wayfarer, it does make Amiri the Sky Ruin a lot better.
Why don't we keep that in mind for later? That might become relevant later. Mono White Field of the Dead, huh? This one's my most recent build, and I have enjoyed it quite a bit. This is Dargo and Kaidel's Cascading Passion for Archaeology, which is a Cascade deck with Passionate Archaeologist in it. They're both going to do some archaeology, and then all of a sudden our opponents are going to die. So Kaidel and Dargo is a pretty weird combo, but I'm like super happy with how they ended up working with Cascade. Kaidel, she works really well with all the cards like Scroll Rack and Brainstorm and Brainstone, and you set up the top card, then cast a Cascade spell like Bloodbraid Elf or whatever, and then go, boop, this is what I wanted. Or put a bunch of lands on top and then boop, 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 boop. I don't want them, scry them to the bottom. And Dargo works really well with one of my favorite cards ever, Flamekin Herald. Dargo with Cascade is just like the most fun thing ever. And then Emoti does the same thing, but she also has Cascade. And this is like, you're going to be throw down like a Goblin Bombardment. You're going to play Dargo, it'll Cascade, sack Dargo, fling him at somebody. Now he costs 1 again. And you just keep paying red to Cascade it at 7 mana.
Yeah, this deck I think is really cool, but it's also very vulnerable. BZ has gone through the whole deck very quickly because if you get rid of 2, 3, maybe 4 key pieces, this deck really starts to just spin its wheels into nothing.
Literally.
Because yeah, when you don't have your Temur Ascendancy, you don't have haste. Your deck needs to untap for a turn. It's really rough.
Well, it's like I'm cascading like Meteoric Mace into Noise Marine, into Bloodbraid Elf, and it's like,
Yeah, none
ooh.
of that stuff is very strong
Yeah.
overall. So when you get rid of the Passionate Archaeologist and all the cards that are paying off, the deck starts like going, where am I going? Where am I going?
You can
Where am
never
I going?
stop Kaidel's passion for archaeology. Some of my favorite cards to play, Maelstrom Wanderer, come on, haste plus double cascade. Amanatu's Augury isn't even as good as it looks. It's like 5 more spells than that.
The real question is, who are you and why did you steal 2 of my favorite cards?
Exactly. This is the Joe Cherry's BZ deck. Amanatu's Augury is like, all right, I'll cast like 6 spells, but 3 of them have cascades, so I'm going to cast more spells, and they can cascade into cascades, and then it's all just over. And Seize the Spotlight, maybe one of my new favorite cards to play with, because with Dargo in the command zone, or Evolutionary Leap, or Goblin Bombardment out, it's 0 mana draw 3, basically.
I think Seize the Spotlight is incredibly medium in every deck that isn't exactly Dargo. Because
Dargo is your boy.
He guarantees if he's not on the battlefield, you have the sack outlet for these things.
And it's just like, I will attempt to cast him, your creatures are already dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Super sweet.
It's like, no, yeah, I won't bother with that. My next is my baby, probably. This has become my favorite deck to play. Not Coast. It's Henzi, and this deck is all creatures and lands. So
How?
100% creature, and it has a companion, Umore, who says you have to have all your permanents or all your non-land spells must share a type. They all share the creature type. So we're about 100% creature. I think it's 63 total creatures in the deck. And I will say, this deck is downgraded from the Henzi deck I had before. The one that Mass Reanimated. It is a weaker version of the deck. But it's much more fun, and I think it's way cooler of a deck, personally.
Agreed. I was sick of having to kill you every time because you were eventually going to rise from the Dark Realms.
Yes, and I won't do that anymore. Something really awesome about this deck, too, is 17 creatures within this deck accelerate mana, because this deck wants mana. It's hungry. It wants to constantly be spending mana. It has all the mana dorks, which are kind of boring. And you could count Henzi and Umore. That would bring it up to 19 for ramp stuff. But the best ones in the deck are, you have Primeval Herald. When it enters or attacks, you get a land. So,
Brand new.
Yeah, brand new. So you blitz it and do that. Rampant Rejuvenator, which when you think about this card, it's so silly what it does.
2 and a green. Put 2 basics into the battlefield, untapped, draw card.
And is that a real Magic card? No, because that would never be printed. And my favorite, probably Seed Guide Ash, unplayable bulk from like one of the
Lorwyn, yeah.
Morning Tide, one of those sets. Just when it dies, get 3/4 on the battlefield tap. This card was bulk, and then Henzi came out and was like, this card is now playable, and it is good.
Yeah, that's what Sea Guide Ash needed. It's like, hey, is there a commander that makes me cost 1 less, gives me haste, and then kills me right away? Oh, there is.
And we cover all of the basics here. Like, card draw is covered mostly by Henzi. We just talked about ramp. And then, like, you want board wipes. Like, there's tons of removal all over the place. Your Chupacabras, your Necron Deathmarks, Duplicant. There's tons of these cards. You also get a couple board wipes because Deathbringer Regent and Massacre Girl. I have played Massacre Girl enough now to tell you it wipes the board 95% of the time. I've had it once in my hand where I was like, dang, it actually doesn't kill everything.
I'm always going to have a stupid 1/1 in play. I'll tell you, I'm the one who's starting the chain. I'm sorry.
But in this deck, I'm playing like 7, 8, 9 mana dorks. I'll just kill my own mana dork to start the chain, and it's gone.
But you don't even have to start the chain. Even if Massacre Girl comes down and kills nothing, when your 3 blitz creatures die at the end of the turn, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. And you can blitz Massacre Girl if you need to, or you can just leave her in play depending on what you're trying to do. And then my favorite part of the deck, the thing that takes this deck from like all that cool stuff I love doing.
The big boys.
But the big chonkers really make me love this deck. Apex Devastator. I play this in like 4 decks now because this card is so fun and I absolutely love it. Like literally Cascade. Come on, you can't get a better line of text than that.
It may be in my Dargo Kaidel deck. Maybe.
It definitely is. Archon of Cruelty. This is another card this card is so cool. Like, it's such a fair card in Commander. It's not.
Can't be too mad at it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it can be aggravating because it's like, oh, you're making me discard and then you're attacking me and you're making me discard.
It's like, what was the alternative, though?
It's like, yeah, exactly. It's like the alternative was like Blightsteel Colossus and you're probably dead.
I didn't get back, it's not Razaketh.
Yeah, it's not Razaketh win the game either. Tali again.
One of Joe's all-time favorites.
One of my all-time favorite cards. I got the serial one sitting in the deck now. Actually, because I got the serial one, I also put Ulamog in this deck.
It's also just great.
You might notice I'm spending a little longer on this deck because I really, really love this one. And Emrakul, the Promised End, it already reduces its own cost. But
yeah, this just shuts the door.
I think it's hilarious. In this deck, it doesn't reduce its own cost that much. There's going to be lands in the graveyard. There's going to be maybe some artifact creatures. and maybe 1 or 2 enchantment creatures, and that's like it. I don't
That's
know.
pretty much it.
It's so funny, but it doesn't matter because when you can blitz it, it's already amazing.
Tonawanda, one of my favorites, possibly my jankiest deck. This is Imperial Archangel Voltron. Tuvasa's the commander, but I barely care about that. She's like plan D. What I really want to do is put out Imperial Archangel and then cheat auras out onto it, even though it has Shroud. Yes, you can do that. And then beat face just with the Angel. It doesn't even win that fast. It's like once you do the combo, you can't die. You're unkillable, and you can win in like 4 combats. So obviously we have lots of tutors for the Angel. There's like Natural Order, there's Pattern of Rebirth, there's Defense of the Heart, and you're just going to get the Angel out every game, hopefully. It's 8 mana. I really don't want to cast it. And then we're going to throw like Spirit Mantle, Spectra Ward, or Shielded by Faith on it. If it has protection from creatures or colors, any creature that's a creature or has colors that deals combat damage to you, it redirects to the Angel and then says, doesn't happen because it's got protection. So the Angel lives and you can't die. And obviously, Shielded by Faith, same thing with Indestructible. The way that you have to move auras onto the creature with Shroud is they have to enter without being cast. Casting targets with an aura, but reanimating from the graveyard, or
Wargate.
Putting it out permanent from your hand on the battlefield, or wargating, tutoring from your deck, does not target anything. So you can just go, for example, Wargate for 3. Oop, it's Shielded by Faith. Put it on there. Funny enough, Shielded by Faith actually just does it by itself. It moves itself without targeting. Replenish is one of the best ways to stack up your Angel. And then Clever Impersonator is another weird one. You can copy an aura on something else and have it go on the Angel.
Yeah, this deck, you talked about how Henzi can kind of just do the your graveyard gets filled and then you win. That's what this deck does too. This deck just fills up its graveyard, then replenishes.
Yeah, you better watch out. You better watch out. This Angel's coming for you.
Yeah. What's your next deck?
It's my mono white deck, and I'm not a coward, so this is God Eternal Oketra's Field of the Dead. We're playing mono white Field of the Dead, baby. We got too many untapped white sources for me to not play it. We're 39 creatures. We're going super wide. Oketra makes 4/4s when you cast creatures, and she kind of is not so good at dying, so she keeps coming back. We got really cool, like, toolboxy type cards. We got Stoneforge Mystic to go find Skull Clamp because we're white and we need card draw. We got Ranger Vios to go find, like, Thraben Inspector or weird stuff like Giant Killer. Weathered Wayfarer can go find Nykthos or Field of the Dead. And we got some finishers. One of my favorites is White Mane Lion. You can just kind of go Oketra, and then you untap with it and you go, nothing, pass. And then you just have like Oketra's Monument or something in play, and you just go White Mane Lion, bounce itself, White Mane Lion, bounce itself, and you just pay X and make that many 4/4s.
Yeah, it can go off. This is your tutor deck. I forgot you had this big tutors in the deck. What a lame deck.
Yeah, this is the mono white tutors, baby. We got Odric, Lunarch Marshall. I don't even play the like quote unquote lamest tutors. There's no enlightened tutor or anything, but it's a lot of like creature tutors. Chroma's Will, gonna finish things up real quick. Kathar's Crusade with Oketra gets kind of nutty, and then True Conviction. I just like that card. It's been real fun. Odric, Lunarch Marshall is like the dark horse. Never expect it to be good. Put it in for the memes, and it wins games kind of consistently.
Yeah, I'm going to say, because you're going to see Chroma's Will get mentioned more in this video, I really have begun to feel like Chroma's Will is Craterhoof adjacent. It's so good.
It's definitely like, oh, they have Chroma's Will. The game's over.
Yeah, it's been ridiculous. But I think, obviously, one of the big differences is it usually only kills 1 or 2 players.
It definitely kills 1 or 2.
Yeah, my next deck is Ishan Double Trouble. We're doubling our attack triggers. 36 creatures in the deck, 31 of them have attack triggers. There's also 3 enchantments. One of them makes a creature, and the other one are triggering when I attack. So the point of this deck, and this was not originally intentional, but it just ended up being how the deck works. You go super wide with tokens. You have Handwar Garrison, which attacks and makes 2 1/1 humans. You have Adeline, who whenever a creature attacks, you get a 1/1 human for each opponent. You have Rabble Rousing. When you attack, you just get a ton of humans equal. Is it humans? No, these are citizens. You get citizens equal to the number of attackers you're attacking with. Double that up. You're going to get a ton of these tokens that just keep coming in over and over again. And then what you end up doing to win is you have all this go wide tokens. Then you drain them out with Commissar Severine Rain, with Brutal Horde Chief, Hellrider, or Mishra claimed by Gix. That's plan. Like A, that's what this deck does.
Plan A through C is just all that stuff. I mean, none of these cards are even that great by themselves, except for I'll say Adeline's pretty great. But when you 2x it all, it's too much.
Yeah, Handwar Garrison, I would say, is a card I would almost never play.
Pretty bad.
I will play it in this deck, especially because its other half is good in this deck.
You want both.
Our creatures want haste. Yeah, it's super good. And the backup plan, I literally listed this without looking at BZ's. Chroma's Will.
Yeah, just play that card and win.
Exactly. The card just puts away games. The card is so good. The fact that your creatures at the end of it are untapped, and you have like 50 more life is ridiculous.
I'm kind of sick of it, but here we are. On to my second Carador deck. This is my Carador deck, but casual. It's literally just my favorite cards of all time. Funny enough, that still equates to a graveyard deck. I love Abzan. I love graveyards. Zero overlap with the CDH version, sort of a challenge I put to myself, because some of my favorite cards are in there, but I already got them in a deck. This is my favorite cards I'm not playing anywhere. This is zero overlap, including basics. There's no basics in the other one. Some of my favorites, if you're wondering how janky this deck can be, we got Siege Rhino in there, Lingering Souls, Bottle Gnomes, and also Piranha Marsh in the land slot. That's going to give people real good. It does have good cards. There's a few. Spore Frog's really annoying with Carador. You cast it from your graveyard every single turn. If they can't put up multiple lethal combats or kill Spore Frog into speed, then you can't really die to combat.
On the script, it says Elishnorn, Knight of the Reliquary, and it looks like that's her
been
title.
promoted.
Yeah, she's Elishnorn, Knight of the Reliquary.
She's been promoted. Elishnorn is like one of the only ways you can ever hope to win the game. Knight of the Reliquary helps us find Field of the Dead, which is actually in this deck.
Yes, because you don't play that in CDH. It's not a good CDH.
This deck is complete jank. I love it so much. It's just my favorite cards. I want to give this deck a big giant hug.
Yeah, this next deck is one I've had for a while. It's Lesbian Power Couple, and I love the name, first of all.
What does it mean?
It's Helena and Elena. Or Helena and Elena. I always forget their names. Because they have such similar sounding names, I kind of conflate them into one. I mean, they would just be what? Helena? That would be their couple name.
What's the name of the deck mean, Jerry?
They care about power. They're the lesbian power couple, and this is a counters deck. So you got the basic counter stuff. You got your Vorinclex, Monstrous Raider. You got your Hardened Scales. You got your Branching Evolution. That's the, basics of any
bread and butter
cards. But what we want to do is we want to get counters onto our commander. So the best things for that, Thundering Nightmare is ridiculous for doing this. This card, every time your opponents cast a spell, +1/+1 counter on it and whatever it's attached to, you're going to do Helena Elena every single time pretty much. Forgotten Ancient, every time anyone casts a spell, you're getting counters. And can you guess where would you move the counters?
Helena Elena.
Good call. Agitator Ant is actually surprisingly good in this deck. It always shocks me. And my favorite, Slippery Bog Bonder. I love this card. It's so good. And it ends up making your commander hexproof. When you're doing a response to a removal spell, it feels
dirty.
It just feels so good. I do it probably more often in response to nothing, just to move the counters over.
I mean, Alana Lana are so nice. They put all these counters out. The creatures want to give back. So they say, here, have them all back. And then she's like, cool, I want to give back to you guys. Here's 50.
Yeah, and then what you do is you put them on the craziest cards you can, like Walking Ballista. When you have 50 counters on the Walking Ballista, yeah, it's GG. You're holding the table hostage. No one's gonna be able to stop you. Cranko is actually like ridiculously good in this deck. You go tall with like a 20/20, and then you attack, and you go wide with 21/1s now.
Yep.
And then there's a bunch of these. There's Heron Blade Elite. There's what is the
Crystalline Crawler?
Crystalline Crawler. Oh, these are in the deck, and they just say for their counters, you get mana. So you can go really big on mana, too, in this deck.
Yeah, the deck is really, really huge. And then right as you think they're going to run out of steam, they just throw down, like, Rishkar's Expertise. And you're like, oh, crap.
Yeah, every single time.
My turn. It's Liara Porter, Free Spell, Super Aggro. This is half sweaty, half meme. I barely even ever play this. I'm satisfied with that. I don't think this is a pull it out every time deck. Almost every single card in the deck is colorless/free when reduced by 3. With Liara, she says attack 3 different people, exile 3 spells, and now you can cast spells from exile for 3 less because you attack 3 people. Great. So the plan is just whatever they are, they're just going and play. Whatever it is, unless it's a land, you're just going to play it. And then you're going to just kind of build up and build up and build up all these stupid little creatures like Memnite, Ornithopter, Inquisitive Puppet might be my favorite because it is just so bad. And you're going to pump them up with like Steel Overseer, Forsaken Monument, Eldrazi Monument, make them huge, make them fly. And then there's just some like hammer cards like All Is Dust, all my stuff's surviving, all your stuff's dead. Mystic Forge, I'll see you in 10 minutes when my turn's over. And like Bergie, you just quit to that. I mean, you just concede to Bergie, right?
I haven't even seen you play this deck since you upgraded it, so I can't even comment on it.
Because I turned it super sweaty. Because I was kind of sick of it being in this weird middle ground. So I just threw Soul Ring, Jewel Lotus, Mana Crypt. Every single piece of fast mana I laying around is in this deck. And now I'm going to throw it over to myself for my Niv Mizzet all multicolor with Gigantha deck. 100% gold. Every single spell in the entire deck is gold. It's 2 colors. 6 cards from each guild exactly. It is perfectly even. We're shooting for that Niv Mizzet 10 guilds off the top. Draw 10 cards. Wombo combo.
Still haven't gotten there yet.
Still haven't gotten there. And you know what? Let's throw Gigantha in there too and make it even more of a restriction because I'm so sick of 5 colors. I wanted to really make sure this was not looking like any other 5-color deck I could build. So we're trying to like flicker Niv. We want to get this trigger because this trigger is really good in this deck. This is like the best Niv Mizzet trigger deck ever. So we have Soul Herder for flickers, Evil Twin for cloning, Dax Duplicate for cloning, and then Athreos, throw a coin counter on him when he dies. Let's do it again.
Yeah, this deck is really annoying because you have to bully BZ with this deck because it's terrible early game.
Oh, God.
This deck doesn't do anything turns 1 through 7, it feels like. And then about turn 8, it just turns up the gas and it's casting Haymaker, 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 Haymaker.
Yeah, some of the best ones, we got Last One Standing and Culling Ritual, which just really like clear the board away, and then they're going to just help you get ahead on mana because Last One Standing is only 3.
God, you need the Last One Standing, you need the Culling Rituals because you get so far behind so early.
You need them in your deck because we can also have things like Bring to Light, which can go to basically any spell. And we also have Mirari's Wake. Okay, not a fan, but in this deck, we have no other options. It's just the big mana thing. I untap with this stupid thing way more than I think I will, and it's contributed to some wins.
I just think that you should at some point in the future submit that removal isn't as plentiful as you play, so this card is better than you think.
We'll see. Maybe if I can somehow twist it to say that everyone's worse than me, so that it's actually good.
No.
Maybe we'll do it. This deck is also where all my extra dual lands go. Just kind of perfect mana base. Whenever I get a new dual land, I'm only striving for like one of each plus the 3 that I have in the Corridor deck. It just goes right in here. So the mana base randomly super bling. This deck is randomly thousands of dollars.
All right, up next for me is my brand new deck. I have only played it twice now. It's pretty new. Lathiel Life Gain. This is the unicorn, and whenever you gain life at each end step, for each amount of life you gain, distribute that many +1/+1 counters. This deck just has a ton of life gain, and because it triggers each end step, you get to play a cool card, Shattered Angel, which does actually gain a ton of life. Like, it's surprising. Just like the card that you've discovered recently,
Life Gift,
which is also in this deck. Shattered Angel also does that, but it's also a flyer that carries counters really well. All the Soul Sisters, we've gone over how those some
Come
of them.
on. Yeah, you know those.
And then all the lifelink creatures are great in this deck because not only are they getting in for whatever their lifelink is, they're going to have counters stacked on them. So that's the next thing. We have lots of counters to put out there. What's the best things to put it on? We have Healer's Hawk in here. And I want to say this should be Sarah Ascendant if I didn't hate that card.
Yes.
I just hate that card. I think it's poorly designed, and I think it makes for unfun games. A lot of times, Spike Feeder is amazing. I actually had to make an exception where I just have an infinite combo in this deck because Archangel of Thune, one of the best life gain payoffs, goes infinite with it. I'm just not going to play them out together. It's that simple. Like
We'll see.
I just won't play it out. I just keep it in my hand. I don't care to combo. I don't like comboing. We don't play in that kind of meta. Spike Feeder is so silly. You can just keep it doubles the life gain every single turn, and then you get double the amount of counters. You can put them all back on Spike Feeder and do it again next turn.
Magic card is also silly.
Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, wait, what are you're talking about?
Zing.
Gotcha, Jim.
Take that.
Voice of the Blast. This card is just a cool testing card. When you gain life, it gets a counter. It's a Chinese Pride Mate, but it eventually gets flying, lifelink, and indestructible. And we're cheating counters on it so we can get it to indestructible really quickly.
That's true. What other life gain payoffs do you have, Joe Cherries?
Well, Celestine, the Living Saint, is really awesome. Remember when they printed 3 of that card in a row? Well, this one's in here. It has lifelink. Going to be awesome for carrying counters because it flies. And Blossoming Bog Beast. If we go wide enough, we don't even have to go that wide. We can easily gain 10 in a turn.
Yeah.
Everything gets +10/+10. All right, let's go.
That's pretty spooky. This one needs to die.
Yeah, this one needs to die. And if you ever get off the attack with this, Lathiel has lifelink itself. You're going to have at least that. All right, get in for like 7, and then on the end step, you had to have gained 5 before that 7. Now 12 counters distributed as you please after you kill the player probably.
Sheesh, it makes me want to hop on over to Nylea Cost Reduction. This is Nylea Key Knight, of course, the one everybody remembers and loves. It makes your creatures cost 1 less, and you can pay 3 mana to scry, basically, and if it's a creature, you can draw it, otherwise you can bin it if you want to. And the goal is to cast gigantic monsters for free, over and over and over. Not so much, there's like a spikier version of this deck where everything is like, kind of like my Liara deck, where everything's 1 or 0 mana, and you just chain them all. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to do that, but with like 11 drops. So we have tons of reducers. We got an Emerald Medallion, we got Goreclaw, and we even have terrible cards you've never heard of, like Planar Gate.
Oh, I've heard of Planar Gate.
Stone Calendar and Krosan Drover. They're going to bring our big boys like Kozilek, Ulamog, Emrakul, Apex Devastator, all the way down to 0 or 2 mana.
But this deck actually has a secret. The secret to this deck is that what you do is you get a ton of cost reducers out, and everything costs practically nothing. And then you have the Great Henge, a Beast Whisperer, even Soul of the Harvest out on the battlefield that say when you cast a creature or a creature enters the battlefield, draw a card, and just spin your wheels.
How many 8-drops can you beat before we're done here?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the secretly what this deck does. Kill those, and this deck really is a lot worse. That's how
kill those, and we're like, all right, here's Primeval Protector. Go ahead.
Yes, and then I can wipe the board. I can wipe the board after that. I can't wipe the board when you pay 10 things and you drew 10 cards.
Yeah, and then obviously Selvala, Life's Legacy, and Rich Cards Expertise is just out of control in this deck.
My next deck is Satoru. Everything is a ninja. Well, obviously this thing gives stuff ninjutsu, so that's what we're going to do. The first step to this deck, and make sure every opening hand has this. If you play this deck, dumb, evasive creatures. My favorite ones, Ginger Brew, because it has haste. It can get in, and then you can put it back in your hand and then do it again next turn. I really like Hypnotic Siren. I love that it has another cast mode after you use it early and you just don't need it anymore.
Because it goes back to your hand. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, Thousand Face Shadow is perfect too because it also goes back to your hand. And then it has Ninjutsu to go over the top. Fairy Seer as an ETB. And Ornithopter costing 0 mana is way more relevant than I ever think it'll be all
Basically
the time.
means it has haste.
It's so weird how relevant that is. And then we have some weird real ninjas in here. We got Yuriko, Shakashima Student, Fallen Shinobi, Ninja of the Deep Hour. It's just a lot of the basic good ninjas that you're going to see in any ninjas list, like a Yuriko one. And then we have imposter ninjas, the fake ninjas that Umezawa is bringing out.
They're insecure. They're only confident enough to be a ninja when Satoru is around.
Yes, exactly. So the first thing, ninjutsu is all about being sneaky. Mm-hmm. How, in God's name, did Ancient Silver Dragon sneak up on anybody?
Terrible guards.
It is a 1,000-foot dragon.
Is it really?
I don't know. Well, I'm estimating its size. It's ridiculously huge. It's definitely nothing that could ever sneak up on you.
No, I think it's the size of 5 traditional dragons.
And even worse than that. Okay, so now that snuck up on you. What about Toxrill? It's a slug.
Would it sneak over you?
Slugs are so slow. They're known for being slow.
You can track a slug pretty easily.
The term sluggish comes from slugs.
That's a little bit, wow. Sorry, slugs. You got to get thrown around sluggish. and the Jingataxius Korogger, he's kind of sneaky actually, but you better kill him real quick.
It's funny. The funniest thing is this is the nice version of the deck because
somehow
there's not the Annihilator Ulamogs, there's not Blightsteel, the Kozlak. There's none of these really, really mean cards. There's some mean cards. I'm not pretending like Jingataxius is a nice card, but it's much nicer than getting annihilated every turn.
Right. You get to play with no hand. You're not dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, it's my blue-black deck. This is easily my least fun deck, and I'm not even sure how to fix it. It's Oscar the Grouch. It's blue-black discard/reanimator, and it uses looting for advantage. It's not so much trying to just pitch cards. It's got a lot of Merfolk Looter, draw discards. We got Vohar. He does it. Bonded Fetch does it. Unfulfilled Desires is just in this deck. It just is looting, but you pay 1 mana and 1 life, and you do as many times as you want. And then Tortured Existence is completely silly because it says discard a creature, which you can now cast, bring a creature back. Well, that's all just gravy.
Yeah, this deck is really, really silly and good. It really is strong. This is the deck that I do call BZ's fun deck because it is not a fun deck. I
have nerfed this deck multiple times, and I think I still have to do it more. We do have freebies. I'll never get rid of these. Street Wraith, the 2 Baubles, Git Probe, and Mox Amber.
You think those are the problem? You think that's what we're worried about?
I don't know, because that's what lets you start doing that's what starts to turn random loots and discards into I'm now doing extra. I'm doing a little bit extra. All these cards say draw a card when you discard them to a looter. And Street Wraith is just one of my babies. I love that card.
Yeah, this deck is also a Reanimator sub-theme. You can cast these when you discard them, but also you're going to reanimate them too. Scarab God, he can reanimate anything. He's actually a reanimation spell himself.
Yeah, you want scary reanimation targets. This is what I had to go down to.
Yeah. Archon of Cruelty, super strong, super awesome. I mentioned that earlier. Nezelhal's awesome. Also a Mysatoro deck. Archon of Cruelty, also there. Duskmangler, such a weird card. I actually was considering putting this into Umezawa because I've seen how cool it is in your deck.
That's where we're at. Duskmangler, I used to have Toxrill and Hullbreaker Horror. Now I got Scarab God and Duskmangler and Astral Dragon, which is kind of neat.
And it's still his fun deck.
It's still my fun deck. It's still the miserable somehow.
You got another deck. This one is more fun, though it can be mean at times when it really goes off. But
yeah, no holds barred. Here we got Queen Marchesa, Political Control, and by no holds barred, I just mean I'm playing the best removal. I'm not playing fast mana or any of that crap, but I got 6 board wipes, and you're gonna feel it if you're a creature deck. You probably can't win. It's pure mid range. It's just grind them out, eventually slug them to death. I've had this deck forever. I love it a ton. It's probably one of my favorite decks. Perforos, Shieldred, the new one, Lysa, Camball, Blood for the Blood God, and Blind Obedience. They're just going to sit and play, or you're going to sling them out, and your opponents are going to slowly die while not being able to do anything to you. Some of my favorite cards in this deck, I mean, most of it's pretty stock. You can imagine what the best removal and the best card draw looks like. We have Field of the Dead. That's a pretty good one. It makes zombies for free. Maybe you've heard of it. Path of Metal is my favorite because it transforms with Marchesa and a token, and I don't have any other synergy. I don't know what else I can do. And wiping away stupid Llanowar Elves is always so much fun to me for some reason. And we got Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter, to draw a bajillion cards. It's not even that efficient. I just love it.
It's a sweet card. I also love that card. Up next for me is Faldorn, Play from Exile. I don't have a clever name for this. So what Faldorn does is every time you cast from Exile, you get a 2/2. So some of the best ways to do that, we got Cascade. Got Apex Devastator here. Love that card. Any deck that has any synergy with it, it's going in. You better believe it. We have Adventure. We have Beanstalk Giant for that. Impulse Draw, which is like half the deck, but my favorite one is Uba Mask. Which
It's a stacks piece.
it is kind of a mini stacks piece, but it does have a ton of synergy with this deck. And Foretell, there's actually one Foretell card in the deck. It's Delayed Blast Fireball.
It is the least foretold thing. If I could take one card out of this deck, it'd be this stupid, frustrating card.
And then we have Play for free from Exile with things like Atali. This deck, we're just going to go Wolves, 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 Wolves. And then once we get there, we're going to overrun. That's what we're going to do. Beastmaster Ascension, Kamal, and Earthshaker Giant are the three ways this deck is just going to win. This is a very simple, straightforward deck. It's not going to trick you. It's literally just going to play spells over and over again, get Wolves, go wide, and just beat your face in. And if you can stop that, so be it. I lose.
Yeah, blink and there's going to be 8 Wolves in play. Wipe the board, and you got a few turns of breathing room.
Yeah, I've had this deck is very reliant on its commander. If you kill Faldorn 2 or 3 times, the deck just kind of fails, and that's okay. I'm okay with having a deck that is very fragile.
Hey, I don't want this commander to die. It's Beladros Witherbloom's big mana. I wanted a huge ramp deck, like out-of-control giant numbers ramp deck. So this is like mana doublers. Obviously, Beladros untaps, paying 10 life. So we need life gain to balance out the fact that we're paying 10 to untap. Kind of spams Field of the Dead. Not gonna lie, this is we got all the tutors for it. So like, we're trying to ramp. So Template's Discovery is already in, and it's like, oh, I'm playing Titania's Command because it's good ramp. Well, I'll just get Field of the Dead every time and then have 7 zombies at any given moment. Life Gift we talked about is a great way to like gain some life. Meathook Massacre is nice. Verdant Sun's Avatar can really get some big numbers. It's a nice little bonus with all those pests you get every upkeep. And then we just like hammer out the mana. We got Regal Behemoth, doubles if you're the Monarch, Vorinclex, the OG, doubles your mana and cuts theirs in half. Zendikar Resurgent, they all work together. That you can have as many out as you want at a time. And then we just got like comical cards like Reshape the Earth, Kamal, who can now pay mana, turn all your lands into 1/1s, but all your lands are tapped. Then you Beladros and untap them all. And then there's like Sir Conrad, where you can now, if your life is high enough or he has lifelink somehow with Whip of Erebos, just spend all your mana, mill everybody, pass, untap, and their upkeep, do it again, and they're going to start dropping like flies.
Yeah, this deck is like the definition of like the problematic ramp deck a lot of people think of for a lot of players, because what it does is we don't play tutors, right? But land tutors are always fine. We're always like, what? Who cares about land tutors?
Like Cultivate, you're going to tutor lands.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, but this deck just ends up getting Field of the Dead every single game, and it ends up feeling almost like it's doing something. It feels like it's cheating.
I might as well just start with it. It's annoying because you're going to need like a demolition field or something, or I'm going to never not have a zombie in play.
Yeah, I do think Field of the Dead is, when you tutor Field of the Dead, I think it's a miserable card. I think it's okay in any deck, like as a land, as a utility land, to get some zombies here and there, maybe 2, maybe 3 a turn.
But this deck really shows it's like, oh boy, I'm trying to reshape the earth and make 10 of them.
Because of how lands are not easy to interact with. They're a permanent type that isn't intended to be interacted with very much. So it adds this like annoying factor. It's like, do you want me to play more strip mines and wastelands? Like
no,
is that what we're asking for?
Yeah, it's like, that's really problematic.
This deck is good though. Like, to be clear, this is a good deck. It just has a weird compatibility problem with our current meta.
Yeah, I think there's some like wombo combos that just make you feel like a genius. Ashaya turns all your creatures into lands,
genius.
So they can untap.
And then when you play a creature, life gift triggers for 1 life.
Exactly. We got Urborg and Yavimaya, but then when you throw like Ashaya and Urborg into the mix, all of a sudden like Dread Presence everything's a swamp. It's like literally everything is a swamp, and you're just exploding people.
Next is by far my least powerful deck. It's not even remotely close. This is Will's Dice Rolling Bonanza, and you just want to roll dice. So the very best cards for doing that, Vexing Puzzle Box. You really want this every game because this lets you roll dice every single turn.
Plus it ramps.
It's literally a manalith, but it doesn't matter. It's literally manalith almost the whole game. It almost never does anything else, but it rolls a dice, so it's awesome in this deck. We have both the Ancient Dragons, Ancient Silver, and Ancient Copper. Obviously, they're amazing. They actually do something when you roll.
Don't let that fool you. Deck still sucks.
This deck is bad. It tricks
Cherry
me.
has to say that.
I have to say that because what happens is I'll hit with Ancient Copper and Ancient Silver Dragon.
They roll like a 17.
And I'll have like 40 cards in, and everyone's like, they're the threat. It's like, I cannot close. This deck can't close.
Just kill Will. Keep Will out of the field, and the background he's with that makes him unblockable. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Nethri's Puzzle Ward is also one of my favorite dice rolling cards. It's literally like bad Phyrexian.
Phyrexian Dice Arena.
It's really, really bad. So this deck actually is a Voltron Will deck. So because Will's background gives him unblockable to the player with the most life, you just want to roll dice, get counters on this, and then suit it up with Lizard Blades for double strike, Sword of Hours, which says when you hit, when it attacks, you get a +1/+1 counter. Then you roll a dice. If it's a 12, you double the counters, or if it's higher than the number of counters, you double the counters. It gets real silly really quick. Strength Testing Hammer, it turns out, is actually a really good card in this deck. When you attack with Will, he always ends up having the highest power. So you just draw a card too, and you're doing extra commander damage, and you roll the dice to put an extra counter.
Showed up in a CDH deck the other day.
Strength Testing Hammer?
Yeah, Slicer. Remember that guy?
No.
The Transformer that people gain control of? They had Strength Testing Hammer in the deck.
That is cool.
Those are two competitive cards.
That's a really cool thing. And Commander's Plate, that card actually was really, really good.
Yeah, that one's real.
And then my favorite part of the deck, because it's a non-deterministic combo.
If this is Joe's Beladros deck, here's the Field of the Dead.
Well,
here it is, folks.
To be fair, like I have tried this 4 times now, and I've won once.
I've hated it every time.
Which is hilarious because it's bad. So if you have Will or Pixie Guy, they both have the same text where if you roll a dice, you roll an extra one. And then the combo from Standard literally could be done unlimited. The Lena Wild Mage, you attack, you target Will or the Pixie Guide, and then you roll, and if you roll a 15 or greater,
you get a non-legendary copy.
You get a non-legendary copy. So it's a non-deterministic loop to eventually get there. It was hilarious. The only time I won with this, it was literally hilarious. I had 30 dice, and my friend was making me roll to see if I was going to get there. I mean, I pretty much had already gotten there, but it didn't matter because it was hilarious.
And you whiffed on like 20 of them, didn't you?
I rolled 15, and I got 1 over 15. It was like ridiculously bad odds. The combo doesn't even work most of the time. Like,
it's a goofy deck that has Splinter Twin, and I hate that part.
It has Splinter Twin, but Splinter Twin, so realistically, math fans of the channel who can help us, what are the odds with a single Will in play of Delina Wild Mage going off? I feel like it's like...
I think they're pretty good.
No, I think it's like 10. I really think the percentages... But the odds of rolling in the first one are bad.
What are they?
Like, so you have...
you roll 1d20.
You have a 1 in 4 and a 1 in 4 chance on each dice.
2 1 in 4s?
2 1 in 4s.
Not so bad.
Yeah, but then it's 3 1 in 4s. It's still not that good. I mean...
Anyway, let us know, math majors. We don't care that much.
I do care. I want to know. Tell me.
All right, so lately I've been hooked on building $50 budget decks. Whenever I see an archetype that I just kind of like hate or I just can't make work, I challenge myself to turn it into a budget deck because usually then I find where it's fun or interesting to me. This first one is Ashnod Flesh Mechanist. That's my creative name for the deck. This is mono black artifacts built heavily around Ashnod. I'm playing her turn 1 every single game, no matter what, and I hate mono black. I think it's like the most boring snooze fest of anything. So I'm like, let me try a budget version with a heavy build around, and I can't play Cabal Coffers. So we're playing, got payoffs for all of these little tiny dudes. There's Nested Shambler and Lazotep Reaver. A lot of them are artifacts, like your Ginger Brute type creatures. And we're going to pay them off with Cabal Paladin, Marionette Master. You know what? I threw Grey Merchant in there. We're on a budget. We got to do something. And we can splurge because all of our creatures are worthless. We can splurge for Canoptech Spider, Nether Trader, Braids is amazing, Skull Clamp, maybe you've heard of it, Bolas the Citadel, and you know what? Cabal Stronghold. I don't need Cabal Coffers.
Yep, this deck ends up winning most of its games. Marionette Master is one of the best cards for finishing off games.
You throw cranial plating on Marionette Master, you just feel like a genius.
Now you're just copying DJ. Come on now.
I did see him do that once.
He literally has his video where he does this exact same thing. He mentions that for one of his decks.
What can I say? I'm as creative as DJ, Double Commander.
Yep.
Next is another $50 budget deck. It's Balmor Budget Mage Captain. I want to sling spells, but I also want to end the game. I've tried to build 4 Spellslinger decks in the past, and it just never works because I always either spin my wheels too hard, or I can't end the game, or I can't do this wizard tribal something that I want to do. This is like perfect. This is everything. $50, we did it. We can sling spells, and as soon as we do it like 7 times, the game's over because Balmor says +1/+0 trample, baby. I just kind of listed some of the absurd cards in the deck. Harmonic Prodigy doubling Balmor and just literally everything you do because everything's a wizard is just, is ridiculous. Vadric, if you don't kill Vadric, you're dead. Azami draws cards for all our things. Galecaster Colossus, surprisingly miserable. If you don't answer it, all my wizards just bounce. It's like a rift every turn. And then Haze of Rage, here's your closer. Here's your Crater of Behemoth. You just kind of go, and your creatures get +4/+0 trample from the casts, the 4 castings he did. And then it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's an extra like 10.
The way to stop this deck is to keep the creatures off the battlefield. And
especially Balmor.
It's kind of funny because what ends up happening with this deck is that BZ either runs away to the point of absurdity, or we keep all the stuff off the battlefield and BZ dies.
Right, or sometimes it's like I'll have like 3 creatures in play in a Balmor, and I've won like plenty of games. Like that's how I win.
Yeah,
and that's why you need to like bully Balmor away from the table.
Yeah, just keep Balmor off the battlefield because that card is strong.
And then we just storm off with Consider, Preordain, Cruise, Dig Through Time, Fact or Fiction, all the basic card draw spells. I don't want to get too detailed.
I almost fell asleep during that.
I do love this deck though.
My next deck is my Zyra the Golden Sting deck, and this is a control, slow, burn them out deck. That's what it's doing. It did take a much inspiration from BZ's Queen Marchesa deck. I did spin it in my own way in a lot of ways. What Zyra does is it comes down, attacks, you put an egg counter on something, and then when that dies, you get a 1/1 insect, and you draw a card. So this makes things like Terminate good in this deck because you go 1 for 1, and then you draw a card. So you're getting the card back, so you're willing to pay 2 mana to get the card draw on top of it.
Okay, if Terminate draws me a card and gets me a 1/1 flyer, I'm in.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it a playable Magic card.
Then I'll play it.
And it actually works in this deck. 26 different pieces of interaction. This includes board wipes, removing artifacts, enchantments, removing creatures. Actually, I didn't count Strip Mine, so it's 27 actually.
My Field of the Dead.
Your Field of the Dead. Get it out of here. And this deck is obviously going to do that. It's going to control the board like that, and then it's the slow burn. Zyra gets 3 damage and chip. This card never gets. It's flying. It has haste. It never gets blocked. Then Medoc Massacre is going to drain you. Blood for the Blood God. Rakdos Charm. They're all on screen. Here they come. My favorite one of the whole deck is Treacherous Terrain, where they take damage equal to the number of basics. It's like my favorite finisher. Cut to Ribbons. Sir Conrad. And when I was listening to these, I'm like, oh, there's not that many. And I'm like, oh, they keep going. Poison Tip Archer. Rug of Smothering is super annoying. Blood Artist. Perforos, God of the Forge. Shieldred. And if you really want to finish people off, Bolas' Citadel.
You could make enough permanents.
So this deck it's slow burn. I don't eliminate players with this deck much. If I go 3 at you, 3 at you, 3 at you to keep everyone at 37 so that the drain takes them all down equally so they die at the same time.
All right, this next one's my Joe Cherry's Hammer deck. This is a Kryptonite against Joe Cherry's. It's $50. Dragonlord Ojutai, you got to pay attention. You have to pay attention to the battlefield or you're going to get hosed. Every single card, pretty much every non-land permanent on the deck has some kind of like onboard effect. So the real plan is get your opponent to try to do takesies backsies and then just go, takesies backsies? Okay, I guess. And just get that like that look of superiority, like I got you and you're a fool and you're taking back your action. We got Commander staples like Judge's familiar. Archon of Maria is actually good. Patriarch Seal's great because we're trying to untap Ojutai. We want to hit people, give it hexproof as much as we can. Gravitational Shift. Don't attack with your non-flyers because they're weaker now. Windboard Muse. I haven't drawn it yet. I'm trying it out, okay? Trying it out. Hushwing Griff, no ETBs for you. And the win con, mostly approach the second sun, but every creature in the deck has flying, so you can easily just beat people up, especially if you throw Sentinel's Eyes on Ojutai. All of a sudden, it's just 6 hexproof flying every turn. And Ojutai combos really well with approach because you play approach, then it goes 7 down, and you hit with Ojutai, and now approach is 4 down, and you draw a card, and it's 3 down, and you hit with Ojutai, and you get it in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really have. I played against this only like once or twice.
You
now.
have not really played against it yet. I haven't gotten you with all the takesies backsies.
Yeah. What's your next deck?
My next one is Fella Ice Shaper. $50.
I've played this one a lot.
This deck is great. It's probably one of the decks that wins the most for me, honestly. It's just classic Gruul ramp / Stompy with an untap theme. I could never do Gruul. I can't do it. Sorry, Cherries. I'm not like you. I need to do a budget version. But we got like Croson Restore and Voyaging Satyr trying to untap lands with Wild Growth or Overgrowth on them to make a buttload of mana, and then we can untap Svello with some of these other payoffs to just kind of activate her to make more manaless or make more 8-mana giant plays. 14 6+ drop creatures in the deck. Sarenth's Great Worm, Kogla, Avengers, Zendikar, those are some of them. And then the MVPs. Fires of Yavimaya is so good in this deck, and I'm so glad it's 5 cents. Sarkhan's Unsealing, we have so many 7-power creatures, and it's like Mizium Mortars on steroids. It's kind of like actually Delayed Blast Fireball, basically, whenever you get that trigger. And Escape to the Wilds, if you're not playing this in your budget green-red decks, you better start.
Yeah, I see. It's funny because you say you can't build the green-red Stompy deck. I can't build the green-black Graveyard deck, and it looks so boring every time I build it.
Oh, it's so much fun.
That's how I feel about the Gruul decks. It's like, oh, I could build a Stompy deck all day. I could build 4 more Gruul decks right now. It's like green-black Graveyard. It's like
I couldn't build one more Gruul deck, and I only have this one.
I don't even have a green-black deck right now, and I couldn't build it right now. I think I started building 1 or 2, and I just went, nah, this looks boring.
If you want to see some cool deck building, you better stay tuned for the 25th when we do an entire deck around our Phyrexia All-as-One preview card. That's going to be a spicy. For now, watch this video.
Get hype. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.